Hi there, my name is Maggie Morginski, and I did my service learning project on no-cost grocery stores and why they are the most effective and ethical food assistance model. My thesis question, what I centered all of my research around, is how do we give people honor and dignity when asking for food assistance? So I started off by just going into some of the background of food assistance in the US, starting off with federal food assistance. We got kicked off in around 1870 with Franklin Delano Roosevelt starting food stamps during the Great Depression. This mitigated both hunger and the food surplus that resulted from people being unable to spend their money. And this program ran until 1943, and JFK brought it back around the 1960s, and it was officially ratified as a federal program in 1964. This program still exists today under a different name of SNAP, and along with this change in 2008 came EBT cards, which basically just made it easier for people to use and eliminated the stigmatization around using paper food stamps. So it was basically just like a credit card that you can use at the grocery store. It also made it a lot more accessible for a lot of institutions to use. So places like gas stations and such can also use them. You can also get into places like zoos and museums now, if it's federally funded. I also did some background on privatized food assistance because the government programs don't actually meet the full needs of families. So around the same time that food stamps were started were soup kitchens and food pantries arose. Soup kitchens were great. You could go and get a bowl of soup for free. This was super cost effective and easy to make in bulk, and also very nutritious. All of the ingredients going into the soup were raw ingredients. And then food pantries were more just like your home pantry, but people could come and take canned goods and non-perishables back to their houses. And the benefit of that was that you can prepare it off-site, and it was more long-lasting. Food banks were started later on in reaction to the Reagan administration cutting funding specifically to food stamps, but also to a lot of social safety net programs. This basically took leftover food from grocery stores, things that were too close to expiration dates to sell, or a weird looking pear, and they would give it to the food banks, which then would distribute to local soup kitchens and food pantries. This also is great because it mitigates food waste. I spent most of my time researching why SNAP is not enough for families in the US. And I thought this quote was great to kind of wrap up my research. Food security is not seen as an innate human right in the US. And that's why 13.5% of families were food insecure in 2023, which roughs out to about 18 million families. And in all of those families, 80% of the funds are used up in the first half of the month. And you may be wondering why that is. It's because when SNAP and food stamps were first started, the amount of that was allocated per family per meal was a lot lower. And it's slowly been updated, but because of inflation, it just can't keep up. So right now it's about $8 per person per meal. And if you've ever tried to meal plan, you know that it doesn't actually cost $8 per person per meal to get a good, nutritious, healthy diet. So families often resort to buying cheap and non-nutritious foods, which keeps them in their cycles of poverty often. I also spent some of my time researching the psychology of dignity, and this quote I think just wraps it up really nicely. Dignity includes attributes such as independence and autonomy, and being forced to rely on others for basic needs, including food, is inherently undignified. So we are putting these people in systems where they cannot provide for their own basic needs, which is check number one for taking away their humanity. And then when they're asking for help, we tell them, if we're telling them what they need, that is also not making them feel respected or dignified. And people deserve to feel that when they're asking for help, or they will continue to not ask for help. And we'll come back to that in a second. I wanted to talk for a second about my service learning experience at the store. The store was great. They provided a lot of dignity to people because it was set up just like a grocery store, and people could choose whatever items they wanted. There was like a limit to how much people could take based off of their family size, just because they don't have all of the resources in the world. But as I was bagging, because that's what my role was, I noticed how many different items families would choose. It wasn't just a couple, like, oh, everybody got mostly the same things, but there was a couple of preferences. It was vastly different, and each family needed something different, obviously. And I think that just goes to show, like, when people have the choice, they know what they need and they can choose for themselves what is best for themselves. Which is why I think no-cost grocery stores are the best model for food assistance, because it matches all of these criteria for making somebody feel dignified. They have enough to actually last them through however long the period is. They have a choice in their items, and there's a similar experience to actual grocery stores. SNAP has 2 of those things and food pantries have none, but no-cost grocery stores meet all of that criteria. And that's because people have actually listened to what people need when serving them. And that's where this quote comes from: unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. That's Dr. Seuss. And this is often applied to sustainability, but I think when people actually truly care about the people that they're serving, they listen and they actually give people what they need. And here's my works cited. Thank you.